One thing when heading into the backcountry that I never leave home without is an app. Now, some of you might be thinking, what does an app have to do with the backcountry? Well, this one does. That's because I'm talking about the iHunter app. This thing's great, man. I've been using it for years. It has a built-in GPS that works off satellite signal, so you don't have to worry about staying within cell range. With the little blue dot on the map indicating your location, you'll know where you are at all times, making it easy to track, locate, just stay safe in the backcountry. It has a variety of topo maps you can use. You can share waypoints with friends. One cool feature is that it has all the regulations right on the app. So for some reason you aren't sure about something, simply pull up the app and double check. This thing's great. You guys can pick it up wherever you get your apps. Moving on to episode 16, today I'm joined by Kyle Stetler of the Wild Sheep Society BC. Kyle and I discuss a few issues going on with the wild sheep in our province. We discuss a couple projects that we've worked on in the past and a new one we got coming up. I hit the record button a little early on Kyle, so let's get into her. Well, this sucks.
How you been, man?
I've been good, man. Just learning the ropes of the podcasting world, which seems to consume my days lately. But man, it's been good. A lot of fun.
No, it's awesome. You're crushing it, man. I really liked. I haven't listened to the last one you did, but
Yeah, no, it's been good. I mean, it's been a lot of work, just the process, and I'm about as tech as a caveman, so it's all new and it's all time, right? So, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun engaging with people and talking to people and just sharing their stories and that's one cool thing about hunters. They're always willing to talk about hunting.
yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, man. I just love it, and it's just so fun to get that. Hosting. It's a bit of work hosting these, and I know you put a lot of work in. Like listen to your podcast, you can tell that you put the effort in, and done your homework. It's a lot of work, but it's so fun too, and you're always learning some new stuff too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe you can just give a quick intro to yourself, and maybe while you're at it, just introduce the wild sheep and what they're all about, and just for the people who don't know, I'm sure most of them do, but there might be a couple out there that don't.
You want me to go back, like with me particularly? You just want me to talk about like kind of current stuff, like
Well, maybe give us the medium backstory on yourself. We don't need to hear about the date you're conceived or anything like that. So maybe
right,
just
yeah,
just go back a little bit and how you got involved with hunting and the wild sheep, and then just maybe
okay,
cover what their
yeah.
goal is.
Oh, sorry, are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording, buddy. You're live. We're
Oh,
we're talking.
Jesus. Oh goodness, that's hilarious. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I grew up actually in Alberta. I was raised on a farm in southern Alberta, and so I grew up in that hunting family. Really, like my grandfather hunted, my father hunted, and actually my earliest days, I remember one of my earliest memories is with, and it's vivid in my mind, is being in a truck with my grandfather, and we were driving along kind of a pasture road. There are a lot of oil well roads out there, and there was these giant mule deer, and a lot of them, big mule deer. And back in the 70s, where we grew up, the mule deer hunting was phenomenal. Whitetail was great, mule deer was amazing. Pre CWD, that sort of stuff. So that's my early memory of hunting, and it's really it's etched in my mind actually, and that's kind of my driving force for conservation. Is I've seen that evolution over 40 or 50 years, 40 years, and I kind of it's a reflection of what it was then and what it is now. And there's definitely a stark difference. And I think that's a pretty consistent theme all across the Canadian landscape, certainly in Western Canada. Anyone I talk to, obviously, I don't hunt all these places now. But uh, anyway, fast forward 25 years, come out to the coast, work related stuff. Didn't really do a lot of hunting at first in BC. Didn't really have hunting partners or hunting areas. I was in the Lower Mainland, living in Vancouver actually. So some challenges there. Obviously, the passion was still there, and then eventually you get established in your career, and then back to the hunting side of things. And I went on my first sheep hunt back in 2010, and with my current hunting partner. He was say let's go. We were trying to find a sheep hunt for a number of years. Actually, it was 2011, 2010. We did a bear hunt together. 2011 did our sheep hunt, and from that moment on, I was kind of hooked on the mountain hunting aspect of things and just being in that environment. So that's kind of the backstory there with the hunting stuff. The conservation side, they went hand in hand. So I always had this conservation, you know, ethos. I always knew how important it was, but I wasn't always doing my part to give back. And I certainly took my share, hunted lots. I started hunting. I killed my first mule deer when I was 14, I think it was, with my dad. So fantastic memories with that. And so I harvested that first sheep in 2011, and my buddy bought me just a regular membership to the Wild Sheep Society BC. Went up to the show in Kelowna, and just meeting that community of conservationists, hunters, and just the passion in that room. I was hook, line, and sinker, man. I'm like, how can I not be part of this organization? So really resonated with me, and then it was kind of a slow transition. I was a member and supporting, and obviously doing my part, but really not volunteering. At the time, Rob Kopecki was the president. I said, hey, Rob, love this organization. Anything I can do to support, I'm there for you. And wasn't too much for a couple of years, and then eventually got more and more involved. And then and that brings us to where we are today. So past president now with the Wild Sheep Society BC. Last year I was the president. David Heitzman took over my role, so I fall into that past president role on the board of directors. Still quite involved on the day-to-day operations of things. And the society is a great organization, just something I believe in. They're dedicated to wild sheep and their habitat in beautiful British Columbia. That's our mandate. So we look after wild sheep, but their habitat. So obviously that's going to benefit a lot of other species as well, right? So our focus, our lens is through the wild sheep lens, but obviously anything that's in the mountains are going to benefit from what we're doing work with the wild sheep.
Yeah, awesome. You guys do a lot of pretty neat stuff and really important stuff. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about was something our buddy Ben there touched on in the podcast that him and I did, was the Fraser River project. He kind of explained what his role in that was, but I was hoping maybe you can just get into a little more detail of exactly what it was, why it was important, and how the outcome turned out, because it's wrapped up now, isn't it, that project?
Actually, we're in year 3 of it, and there's work still being done there. And I think there'll be a lot of work continue to be done as well, Kevin. It's not, it was a 3-year project, and we're in year 3 of it. And I don't think Ben's doing any helicopter work right now around that. But the Wild Sheep Society BC, Chris Barker is our project chair. Chris is one of the most passionate guys I know when it comes to conservation of wild sheep. Just hard working, dedicated. And the Fraser River ecosystem is so unique, right? We've got all these big horns on there, and there was a pretty significant die-off in the 90s, and we didn't really know why, didn't really understand it. We suspected disease. We were right. Now the project has indicated that, that is the main driver there. And some of those herds are down 50, 60 plus%. So significant drop-off. Our goal is to see a vibrant, healthy Fraser River ecosystem. There's tons of habitat there, but the problem is there's this disease issue, right? So that was something that we were, as an organization, passionate about. Chris is incredibly passionate about it. And, the regional bios do the heavy lifting in the province. Don't make any mistake there. Without the regional bios, we couldn't do any of this work, because we're not biologists. We are a conservation organization. So, and we don't have any biologists on staff. So, we're a volunteer org. We've got one executive assistant, and that's it. That's all we have in terms of paid staff. Everything else is just volunteer work. So Chris works with the regional bios, and he reached out in the Region 3 and was working closely with Chris Proctor. And they basically, and Jeremy Ayotte, and they came up with this project collectively, driven by the bios, and, kind of us spearheading that project. As you know, with the regional bios, they can only do so much work in the province, right? Funding's an issue. They have to find funding sources. And I think that's what we do. That's kind of our role. We're able to be that catalyst where we can provide the support as an organization. We have access to resources. We have a lot of funding partners that like to work with us. And so we're able to, work closely with these other organizations and sort of be a part of these regional bio projects that they're doing. So the Fraser River stuff is really important. There's a ton more carrying capacity in those hills. And we committed $57,000 in year 1 for that. We put about $100,000 into that over 3 years. And, you had Ben on the show here, Ben Berryukoff from Canadian Wildlife Capture, just a really ardent supporter for conservation. He donated a bunch of his own time and money for that. I'm not exactly sure what the discount on the helicopter bill was, but it was significant. It was five figures for sure. So Ben was, heavily invested in that. He's a monarch member with the Wild Sheep Society BC. So this project is fantastic. The cool thing is we ended up doing a test and remove or test and cull on the Fraser, and we've actually seen some pretty significant lamb recruitment this past year. So really exciting. Past years, the die-off on new recruitment has been very high, and this is the first year we've gone out. We've done that test and cull last winter, and we've seen really positive results. The stats are still coming in, still rolling in. We're still getting data on that, but it's been a very successful project by all accounts from what we've seen according to the regional bios.
You say the disease in these sheep, but what's the disease and what does it stem from?
Yeah, great question, Kevin. Disease is just a nebulous. It's a rabbit hole, and if you want a podcast subject and you want to put your listeners to sleep, that's a great one for you. And you can talk about 3 days on the disease issue, and you'll probably be more confused than you were when you started. And I am no disease expert, but wild sheep, that is our nemesis, right? That's by far the biggest factor in British Columbia right now that we face is the disease issue. We can't do transplants because of disease. So, okay, type of disease. The big offender today is Mycoplasma ovi pneumonia, MOVI. So MOVI is a pathogen that affects wild sheep, and basically it compromises their lungs. Basically, you have the equivalent of cilia in your windpipe, and that prevents stuff from going down. What happens? MOVI goes in, it lays that cilia down, and then other pathogens and other infections can get into their breathing system, into their lungs. So they kind of call it as a setup agent. Quite often, MOVI is not necessarily the cause of death. It's probably something else, but MOVI caused that. Even predation, there's heavy predation, but it's always these weakened species or weakened animals that have MOVI, and then they can't get away. The healthy ones escape, right? So MOVI is the biggest offender. A lot of people like to talk about MOVI and say, oh, MOVI, and that is, according to the biologists, the biggest offender as of right now. But there is a host of other diseases, but that's the one we're most focused on because it is the biggest threat to wild sheep in the disease world right now. So MOVI is the big one, and it's relatively new on the landscape. There's not a lot known about it, and there's been a ton of money, time, and effort spent on research around MOVI. The problem is there's no cure for it. And that's the challenge with the MOVI is if we could cure MOVI, it would make a huge difference for wild sheep for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned declines in sheep now. How do you guys get these numbers? Like what process do you guys go through? I know with the mule deer, you're talking about doing a mule deer count. Is that the same sort of thing that you guys do with the sheep?
That's an element of it for sure. Again, this goes back to our regional bios. They're out there, they're on the landscape. One of the challenges in BC, and I think in a lot of jurisdictions, is we really don't have great numbers. The numbers of wild sheep are, they're not. We don't have a great inventory. And
is that something that's new? Like, do we used to have a healthy, strong stock of sheep, or is it just something that our landscape in BC never really sustained numbers?
We have some really solid sheep numbers in BC. There's good numbers here in BC for sure, and it's been, I would call it stable. It's not sheep numbers aren't. There's certain areas that are doing better than others, but this disease issue, this chronic disease issue, and the disease issue is a southern issue. It's not a northern BC. It's not a thin-horn issue yet. Oh, yeah. Which is something we're scared of. We're scared to death of that. And if you talk to some of these other individuals in the wild sheep community, Kevin Hurley, he's with the Wild Sheep Foundation. Kevin is a biologist, and I can tell you that we're scared for that northern sheep herd. It's a large contiguous area, and a disease event in northern British Columbia would be devastating. And we will have the only true stone sheep in the world. So we have a responsibility to protect those animals. So that's one thing the society's been advocating hard for, is a framework to protect our northern, well, actually we want a disease framework to protect all our wild sheep. And I guess I should just back up and just say, for those of the listeners that are not really familiar with it, wild sheep contract disease from domestic sheep, and domestic sheep come from old world or from Europe, and they're kind of immune to a lot of these diseases. It maybe affects them, it maybe has some impact on their health, but quite often, most of the time, it doesn't kill them. However, the wild sheep in North America, they're kind of naive to these old world diseases, and it wreaks havoc on them. It's quite often a cause of mortality for them. So the biggest thing that's affecting is domestic sheep passing on disease to wild sheep and then causing die off. So the North's been good. There's really been no documented cases in northern BC that I'm aware of disease events caused by domestic sheep. But we're very concerned about that because it would have such a devastating effect. The issue is primarily a southern BC issue, and it certainly has impacted. Our sheep numbers dropped in the 90s, and some areas have regained, but a lot of areas have not. And it's a lot of it is most of the time is at the hands of this disease issue.
Right. So what's the province's participation in stopping this?
Yeah, it's tough, Kevin. So,
if any,
here's an issue. Well, no, they care. I will say that government cares. The government cares. The thing is it's multi-jurisdictional, right? We've got an issue. It's Flynn Roe, but it's also ag, right? So Flynn Roe can't impose legislation around ag, right? So the issue, the best thing for wild sheep and domestic sheep is to keep them separated. If we want to see wild sheep succeed, we got to keep domestic sheep away from them. And what we're advocating for is, obviously we want to see a healthy agriculture sector. My dad was a cattle farmer, a rancher. I love agriculture. Some of my best friends growing up, they're all farmers. And, we want to see a healthy ag industry. What we also want to see is some separation where there's spaces that we can have wild sheep and we don't have domestic sheep. The challenge is you got to.
Yeah. So this disease, it doesn't affect domestic sheep?
It has an impact, and there's been actually some recent data that has shown that there has been some lamb mortality due to the disease issue, due to Moby, but it's not common. It's very now. Data shows that growth rates have been stunted in Moby infected animals and disease infected animals. Numbers like 3 to 5% on their growth rate, and we use that argument to the domestic producers, to the agriculture industry, saying, hey, you get healthy sheep, you're going to have better lamb growth and you're going to have better profits. But the problem is to do all the stuff around disease work, the testing and removal, it's expensive. There's no question about it, and it doesn't pay for itself. So, and that's where we've, as wild sheep advocates, said, hey, we'll come in and we'll support you. Like we're willing to have some skin in the game. We're not asking you to do all the heavy lifting. We can do volunteer work. We're happy to do some funding if we can. If you comply with what we believe is going to benefit wild sheep. But it's challenging. There's no question about it. And there are a lot of great domestic producers out there. People care about wildlife, right? I grew up in, like I said, in a farming community, a ranching community. We cared about the landscape. We cared about our livestock, but we also cared about the mule deer and all the other species on the landscape. We loved seeing them there. And I know that domestic producers as a whole do as well. They do care about it, but they also have a business, right? So
yeah,
it's a challenge, and there's a lot of great producers out there that are supporting what we're doing, and they want to do the right thing. One of our past board members, he had the first certified Moby free flock in British Columbia. Brad Siemens, he's out of the Kootenays, and Brad is really passionate, and we dialogue a lot. And he goes, Kyle, this is killing me on the cost, right? So there's challenges there, and it's a tough one. Ideally, no disease would be great, but it's kind of like the COVID thing now, right? Like,
yeah,
we've seen that with us. You can't stop a disease, right? Unless you just lock everyone in their house and don't go anywhere ever. But the world doesn't work like that, and certainly doesn't work like that with wild animals, right? So it's a challenging issue. It's not easy. And so back to your original question, what's the government? The government is doing things. We meet regularly with the Ministry of Agriculture. In fact, the minister herself, Lana Popham, she's been very supportive. But they have to look after their needs first. And,
Right. Well,
their number one initiative is not.
are they contributing on like a monetary perspective for this project as well? Or are they just saying we're going to support
Uh,
you, let us know what you're doing type of thing?
Truth be told, I don't think there's any funding from ag for what we're doing. Not that I'm aware of. There may be, but really the help that we can get from agriculture is not a monetary thing. It's more about what we're advocating for, and one of the biggest things we advocate for through the ministry is a provincial framework for disease. We want to say, okay, in northern BC, you cannot set up shop if you don't have a flock of domestic sheep in northern BC, you can't put one in. We want to have that regulation. We want it to say that, but that's tough, right? It's private land. People have the right to do on their private land what they see fit. And then what we're advocating in the south is we basically say we want to get these areas classified as low risk, medium risk, and high risk to wild sheep, and different criteria for each of those. And the big thing is in medium and high risk areas, we want testing to be done. And ideally, we'd like to see that, infected animals are removed from domestic flocks. Because if you remove the disease, you remove the risk, right? So that's one of the things we're advocating for. We want to see the ag producers on the ground, successful, having a successful business, but we want to put protections in to protect wild sheep. But we get it. It's a challenging issue. People have their own properties that they're trying to protect. And we get it. It's their private land. They can do what they want. Who has the right to come in my house and tell me how I'm going to live my life, right? It's a challenging issue, and we're respectful of that. But we also say, yeah, but if you do something in your house that kills your neighbor, that's not cool either, right? So.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, everybody has their own agendas and stuff, but I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of work ahead. So hopefully we can continue to raise support for you guys, and both a physical and monetary aspect. Maybe we can get a lot done in the next couple of years, and it'd be nice, like you said, to put an end to that completely. But so we just finished up a fundraiser we did for you guys. For those who don't know, was basically all new members of the Wild Sheep Society, depending on the length of their membership, receive certain products through our webpage. I think it turned out pretty good. I think in the end we ended up donating just under $1,200 to you guys for that project, and we got another one coming up for this year that I think we'll get into a bit here. But how did this year compare to previous years in terms of memberships with COVID? Did you guys see any downward trends in that regard?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd be remiss not to thank Focus Hunting and what you've done for the Wild Sheep Society BC. Absolutely phenomenal, Kevin. I know that you guys are doing this because your heart's in the right place. There's no return on your investment other than you doing the right thing, and we're grateful for it. And I love that support, and it's exciting to be affiliated with people that care and are giving back and making a difference, and for really no benefit other than they believe in what we're doing, and our members see it too and appreciate it as well. So, and that was a great campaign, and absolutely, we certainly used that to market our memberships, and it was very successful. I don't know the exact number and I know you have that data, and we do know the monetary cost on that. But there was like a lot of people that signed up through that promotion, so we're super grateful for that. In terms of our membership, we've actually seen, I think, a benefit actually with COVID in terms of membership growth. We set a record. We're setting a record daily now with our membership. So our membership is definitely up. A lot of it's new members, but we have actually some pretty high retention numbers. I would say that talking to other people in the industry, I think ours is above average in terms of renewals. Yeah, sure, we do lose members. There's no question about that. That's part and parcel. But we've seen significant growth. We're a small organization. It's a provincial organization. Granted, we're a niche kind of market in the conservation world that we focus on wild sheep. As we know, we benefit other species in the mountains as well. But when I joined the board, I think it was 4 years ago, maybe 5 now, we're roughly 340 members. I came on early as the membership chair, and that was part of my goal, was to increase our growth. We're knocking the door of 1,000. We do have a membership drive on right now, which is pretty cool. When we hit that lucky number 1,000, which we're roughly 50 members away from that, I think we're like 955 or something as of this morning. We're going to give away a Yeti cooler. Plus, we have another membership drive on as well. So, Yeah, we've been, COVID's treated us well with regards to membership growth and even just the support of our members. But I will say that I feel that the society is very blessed. Our members are unique. I've been part of other fishing game organizations, a lot of great people doing great work out there. I know you do great work with SCI Interior. I'm a member as well, doing great work, but I'm partial to the work the society's doing and our membership. Our guys and gals just keep giving. Our volunteers and directors, people are just stepping up and over and over and over, and the support is phenomenal. I've never seen an organization like this, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we've got some pretty cool members. They're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, for myself, I'm a lifetime member of the Wild Sheep Society. I've never even bought a sheep tag. So, I mean, that just goes to show you what kind of work you guys are doing. We got a new one coming up for 2021, a new T-shirt doing with you guys. I've been, it's you and I talked about it, I think in November, December, we started playing with the idea of, you already said the name of it there. You hit it on the nail on the head, focus on wild sheep. Basically, it's a T-shirt. We're going to be selling through our web page, and all the profits of that T-shirt are going to be going to the Wild Sheep Society of BC. So I'm pretty excited. Have you seen the T-shirt yet? I think I sent it.
Yeah, I think so. You sent some versions, and then you told me which one you were going to go with, but I haven't seen it individually. But you said these are the ones we're considering, and then okay, we're going to go with that one. And it's awesome, man. Like Kevin, yeah, you're a life member, and you stepped up, and that's the cool part of what we're doing is we got a lot of people like yourself that have never, bought a sheep tag, never been out in the mountains chasing them, but you still care, life member and what you're doing. And I'm super excited about, this collaboration, you guys supporting us and promoting wild sheep and our concerns and issues in BC here. And, it's fantastic. So, hats off to you, Kevin, and Focus for everything that you guys do and all the support across the industry. I know we're not the only ones, but you certainly stepped up big time, and we're super grateful for it. And I can't wait to get this T-shirt out and get that out. And obviously, I'll be lining up to buy a bunch of them.
I'm going to get it advertised now that you and I have had a chance to talk here. I've been waiting for this, so I'm going to get it on the webpage and get it for sale, and hopefully people will jump all over it. Been looking forward to it, that's for sure. But in terms of stepping up and doing this, it's just something that I feel that every hunter, every fisherman needs to do. It's our responsibility to be stewards of the land and to make sure that this lifestyle that we have, that we enjoy, that we love, is passed on to the generations to come. And that's really why I got into this. It wasn't for me or for you. It was for my kids. To ensure that they had the same experiences and they get to enjoy all this love for the outdoors that I did. And I was involved with the commercial fishing industry, and I did a lot of recreational fishing when I was a kid. And so I knew there was issues and aspects of wildlife that were in trouble, but I never really got deep into it until the last, 3 or 4 years. And then I've really started to notice, when I started paying attention, I really started to notice, not only the issues in our province, but all over, and not just that, all the discord that there is in the hunting community. So that was kind of the premise of Focus Hunting. I wanted something to be able to give back in a residual way rather than just a membership or donating $10 or $20 here. With a brand, it gives you the privilege to get involved, get noticed and give back to the community. It's been a lot of fun. It hasn't been a year yet, but man, it's been a blast. So
Kevin, it's interesting you brought that up, and like if we had everyone that hunted was a Kevin, this world would be a different place, right? We would have the Serengeti of the North that we did 200 years ago, right? Because hunters do care, but a lot of hunters, they use the ethos or the saying hunting is conservation, which is true. But if you think, a lot of hunters say, well, I buy a sheep or I buy a tag, and my revenue goes to that. And if you think that that's going to make a difference for conservation in the province, you're sadly mistaken, my friend. You look at yourself, look at what you're doing. You've created this platform. You're donating time, money, and effort. You're raising these issues. And you're making a difference in the province, right? And hunters need to get on that bandwagon. We need to make a difference. Okay, yeah, not everybody needs to do a podcast. Not everyone needs to start a clothing company, but you got to do more. And if you think buying a tag, going out and buying your hunting license, and if we relied solely on that money, with the revenue from that, the 6 million or whatever it is that goes to HGTF, we're in a world of hurt, man. We are in a world of hurt, and hunters need to step up. There's a small contingent that are doing way more than their share, and we need everyone doing their share. Liking something on Facebook, and buying your hunting license is not conservation. And so that's where credit to you. You've gone above and beyond. You've done the work of 150 people, but we just need every hunter to do a little bit more. Start giving back a bit more. Join a conservation group. Doesn't have to be the society. Sure, not like whatever SCI, your local fishing game, whatever it is. But people have to start stepping up and doing more. And that's the one thing that I believe in, is find an organization that's making a difference, that means something to you, and step up. People have to start doing more, and hunters have to start doing more, because we're getting killed right now, and a lot of it is because hunters aren't doing enough. And we're doing a great job. I'd say better than average, better than your average person, but it's not enough. So that's kind of my rant for the day.
It's true, though. We could definitely do more. We all have this intrinsic love for the outdoors. And I mean, some is manifested naturally, like mine. I grew up on the ocean, and from the time I could walk, I was involved with the outdoors. So, but having said that, I mean, it doesn't matter how you got to where you are today. If you share the passion and love for the outdoors, you have to do a little bit more. And I look at myself, I'm just trying to follow the footsteps of all great people like yourself ahead of me have done. And I don't think of myself as a pioneer in any means in the industry, but you're right. It takes a little bit more, just a little bit more effort from everybody, and less judgment too, I find. You know what I mean? There seems to be a lot of judgment and, lament in the hunting community. And I don't know where it stems from. I don't know why it's there. I mean, as hunters and fishers and true outdoorsmen, even if you're not a hunter, as a true outdoorsman, you should be connecting with each other and with the outdoors. And that's what makes it special. And that's one thing about these podcasts. And you're right, you don't have to start a clothing company, and you don't have to start a podcast to do it. But that was just one way I felt to get involved and share my story, and allow the opportunity to share other people's story and get engaged. And like I said, man, it's been a blast, and hopefully it creates a positive response.
I think it already has, Kevin. I love tuning in, and you do a great job, and always enjoy your guests on there. It's interesting you said about the disconnect in the hunting community, and there is a little bit of that for sure. And I think, it's important for us to look across the aisle and look at, what our competition is doing, and who's our competition, or who's our enemy, I guess you could say. The anti-hunting community they've got their poop in a group, man. They've got their act together. And there's coalitions, there's groups of dozens of anti-hunting groups that are all on the same page. They're well-funded, they're organized. And for some reason, as hunters, we start getting hung up on, well, you're whatever, you're this or you're that, focusing. And don't get me wrong, there's certain issues that we, need to focus on. But we need to start coalescing as a group, because, there's people that don't agree with what we're doing, and they've got their act together. Raincoats just dropped something this morning again. There's a new campaign that's come out, an advocacy campaign for anti-hunting. And, we can sit there and fight within the group, but at some point there's not going to be anything to fight over. So we need to get our act together.
Well, exactly. There's not going to be a group left. It's something I think we can work on it. How's 2022 looking for, or 2021 getting way ahead? How's 2021 looking for you guys with COVID? I know, obviously there's not going to be a fundraiser again this year.
Yeah. Again, the strength of our membership is people coming together, and the shows kind of are that cementing point, right? And people, that's their big thing every year in our community. A lot of people, we have our 2 fundraisers, and people get together. We made a fairly early decision that we weren't going to be able to have it was pretty obvious back in November that things were not going to work out for an in-person event. So we've kind of retooled, relooked at things. We're going to go to an online platform. We're going to have some stuff going on. We got our Northern fundraiser on February 6th. And then we have our Kamloops convention. This year we're calling it our Kamloops Wild Sheep Salute to Conservation. That's March 12th and 13th. And they're going to be virtual events. They're going to be online. But we're going to try and mimic the show a bit more. Last year, we managed to pull off that Northern fundraiser, but Kamloops literally got canceled on the Thursday, and the show was the Friday. So Bonnie Henry, we wanted to slide in under the wire, and then Bonnie Henry Thursday night announced the 50-person restriction, and we're just like, it's not going to work. So we were all sitting in Kamloops, had to cancel the show. We retooled then. We did some online stuff, Facebook auctions, some raffles, and we were incredibly successful. We had a great year. And that's on the backs of our membership. They stepped up and supported us. This year, we wanted to give back a bit more, so we're putting some effort in. We're going to put some seminars together. We're going to put some speakers together, do project updates, some raffles. We're going to have a live online auction with an auctioneer, so he'll be in the room in Kamloops doing a live auction. We'll do live raffle drawings. So it's not quite as good as the in-person events, but we're going to do the best we can. We do everything we can within our means to give something back to our members and hopefully raise some money for Wild Sheep as well. So that's kind of our plan. We are planning sheep counts for the spring. That's stuff we can do. That's COVID friendly. We're going to follow all the rules of COVID. We're planning some sheep counts in the spring. Better not be sheep hunting in the spring. I don't think we'd be very popular there.
No.
Some sheep counts, and we'll have some announcements on that fairly shortly here that we are planning them. But again, we're being smart about it with the COVID rules. We're not going to break any rules. We're going to do it by the book. But we are going to be able to get out there on the hills and do some sheep counts. And that was all. We lost our Spence's Bridge sheep count last year because of that. It was just the COVID risk was too high. But we've kind of got a plan in place this year for all that, which we'll communicate with our members in due course.
So for those who don't know, what's a sheep count? You just hit the side hill and start counting sheep. Do you go up there, you spend the weekend up there, and you do something you can do with your family? Walk me through what that is.
Obviously, you can show up and do whatever you want, count sheep if you want. You can lay in bed, do it, whatever you want. But with ours, it's a bit more, there's a bit of structure to it. So with our Spence's Bridge, you go up to Spence's Bridge, you're assigned an area by our volunteers. And then you also have rules that you have to follow. So the goal is to classify, the class of ram, and then also if there's ewes or lambs, and collate that data, and you have a specific area that you're doing it in. So that gives us a framework and data that's fairly reliable. The regional bios are involved. They've given us some guidance on that and told us how to class these rams and stuff like that. So then we can collate data and we can actually have consistent data. Same thing, we did it on the Fraser last year in Region 3, went up and did a sheep count. And again, we had small groups and they were designated certain areas and they were to give us data, and then we collect that data. And that's how we're able to see some recruitment. You did ask about the inventory and the certain areas that we do these counts. We have some pretty good inventory. The Fraser ones, we've been doing, we're trying to do it every weekend, because then we can see the evolution of the lamb count, right? We can see if new lambs are showing up on the landscape, and we can keep accurate data and see where we're at with that.
Can anyone get involved in these sheep counts?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. We'd love to have you as a member, but no, if you want to come up, and we've had lots of non-members come up as well. We do communicate the information on our website. This year is going to be a little bit more, controlled, I guess, if you will, only because of COVID. You can't have 300 people standing around together. You're not doing any justice there. So, we're going to be smart about what we do. But yeah, you don't have to be a member. I'd love to see you sign up. But Spence's Bridge was always a great time. People would come up, and there was, people would camp, and people brought barbecues, and it was a lot of fun. But we're going to have to keep that a little bit smaller this year because of COVID. And the Spence's Bridge, we haven't cemented that yet. There's some First Nations engagement that's required there. We're very respectful of Cooks Ferry, is the First Nations in that area. So we just need to coordinate that, and then we're going to ideally offer an opportunity for our members to do a count there. But again, it's in line with First Nations engagement and making sure that everything's cool on that front as well. We have to be very respectful of our First Nations communities for sure.
Yeah. So how many counts are there that go on throughout the year?
So typically, the Wild Sheep Society BC has only held the one in Spence's Bridge officially. However, last year we did the Fraser River one, and it was quite small. We just did small groups. And the reason was we wanted to have people every weekend. Our goal was to have people throughout the spring every weekend, as opposed to having a bunch of people show up one weekend and do the count. And it is a bit more, it's a bit farther to do that count as well. So Spence's Bridge is super quick out of Vancouver. You just up the highway and you're there in no time. So it's a little further on the Fraser. And so that's been a bit of, an impediment, I guess if you will, as well. So yeah,
that's great. Well, there you go. If anybody give somebody and their family something to do over the weekend. Bring out your tent or whatever you got and go count some sheep. Goes to a great
It's just
cause.
fun, right?
Yeah.
Like-minded people. It's free. You're outdoors. You get to see wild sheep. You get to photograph if you're a photography guy, and you get to connect with people that care about nature and wild sheep and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's always fun to get out too. It's always a
For
good
sure.
time. Never
Absolutely.
have a bad day out in the woods.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, I appreciate you taking a bit of time to join me here today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's been a great chat. We're always trying to grow our conservation footprint for wild sheep and all species that happen to be in their habitat as well. So we've got a membership drive going on right now. We'd love to see you sign up. There's lots of opportunity there. I think we're giving $1,000 gift certificate away to either Still Glacier, Yeti, or Sitka Gear, who's our conservation partner. So great opportunity there to sign up. And that runs until March 13th. So somebody's going to win that $1,000 gift certificate plus that Yeti cooler once we hit 1,000. Plus, there's a sheep show. It's Sheep Week in Reno this weekend through the Wild Sheep Foundation. And we're also doing a giveaway there with a Yeti, Wild Sheep Society BC Yeti mug, hat, and t-shirt. So anyone signs up between now and February 16th gets their name in for that draw as well. So anyway, always looking for members. The membership does matter. It doesn't make a lot of money for us. What it does is we can share the issues, and there's a lot of regional issues, and you can get involved. One thing we have been doing is we've been building a province-wide engagement team that we have our members going to their individual MLAs, and our goal is to have all 80 plus ridings covered. So you go in and you meet with your MLA on every 6 months and basically raise the main issues for wild sheep in the province. So we're working on that. So that's a big thing. If we can get our members involved and we get more members, we get more voice, then we can drive these issues in Victoria. We can get these issues with ag pushed down the road. We can get these issues with Flynn Road pushed down the road, and hopefully some of these things enacted. So membership makes a big deal. We're seeing it now as we're growing. So if you come over to wildsheepsociety.com and sign up as a member, we'd love to have you. There's a home for you there.
Awesome. Yeah. You can also go to the Focus Hunting webpage. We got a link for you guys right there. You just click on that. It takes you right to the membership form. But there's also a lot of great stuff on your guys' webpage. And I think you guys are on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram. So there's no excuse not to get involved for anybody listening that needs something to do, especially this winter. I mean, there's no better time than this winter. You can't go anywhere. So might as well do it.
Yeah, there's lots of horn porn on our Facebook page. We've got a couple of horn porn ambassadors. They're fantastic. So Darren Epp and Jeff Jackson, they're just great photographers, and they do a lot of work on our site. So it helps you get through the winter looking at these big rams or ewes or lambs. These guys do a great job. So check it out on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, man, there sure is a lot of cool, neat pictures out there of sheep. Nathan French does some great work. I got one of his pictures. Man, it just first showed it to my wife and she couldn't believe it. She was blown away how just the quality and just the frame and everything. It's pretty beautiful stuff. So lots to look at, lots to do. Yeah, he is. He's a good guy. So
talented. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, man. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and we'll do it again. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Kevin. And again, thank you for all you do in focus hunting. You guys are relatively new to the space, but you've done so much in such a short time, and just the support you've given the society and other conservation organizations across the province is fantastic. So just thank you. Hats off to focus hunting and yourself for everything you're doing. Appreciate it, man.
You believe that? Wow. I guess it's all worth it.